Hey, it's Nikki Thompson, and you're listening to Tea with Nikki, embracing your sexual energy. And today's episode is a little bit different. We have a beautiful guest on. Her name is Kim. Kim Morrison is the founder of 28, which is one of the most incredible essential oil companies. She is a world record holder for long distance running. She's the mum of two beautiful children, and she really does embrace all that is feminine energy. She has an incredible story to share today, and I am just blown away by this interview. I've just got off the interview with her and I thought I have to do this intro right now because this was the best interview I've ever done in all of my years of podcasting and interviews. The message she shares and the way she shares it, you will want to get off your bum and do something right away. She gives some practical tips of how to embrace your feminine energy on a daily basis. And we talk about that balance, that beautiful balance between the masculine and the feminine, and what that looks like in her life and how it all started. So stay tuned. This episode you do not want to miss. Good morning, Kim. So I'm really excited to have you here. Our conversations on this podcast are all about embracing your sexual energy, your sexy side, your feminine energy. And as the queen of self-care, I had to get you on here. So thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure. I love this topic.
Excellent. And it's a fun topic because I feel like when we start to talk about our sexual side, it's kind of still taboo a little bit, but I feel like people are opening up to that whole conversation now. And it's something that, it's fun. It's all about, embracing that, our whole us, that whole woman side. So thank you for sharing today.
A pleasure.
So I would love to know, what was it? Was there like a pivotal moment for you in your life where you kind of started your self-care journey? Was there something that happened? You're like, oh my gosh, I'm not taking care of myself, or I've gone too much like into do kind of phase of your life?
I think growing up, my mum worked 3 jobs and I was her right-hand person. She had me at 17. She was young and beautiful and, in my opinion, an absolute go-getter. And my passion around netball and sport, I never thought that I wasn't looking after myself. So I always had to make sure I was fed and had the right shoes and was training. So I think sport and physical movement is such a great metaphor, or such a great focus for those of us that might not be good at taking care of ourselves. In order to look after and have the best outcome from your body, you have to look after yourself in the best way that you can. So I don't think it was an actual event until I moved to Melbourne. I grew up in New Zealand, and I went to Melbourne when I was 19 years of age, and there's no accidents. My love of sport and fitness, I was working in a gymnasium, and next to the gymnasium was a natural therapies college. And this course, I had $180 in my bank account, and there was a course for $160 on massage, essential oils, and sport. And I just thought, wow, that sounds amazing. So, of course, I enrolled in that. Glad Mum couldn't see through the internet what I was spending money on, but it was fascinating. And then I happened to meet 2 women who were selling essential oils. They started, in essence, aromatherapy down in Melbourne back in the late 80s. And I was privileged and fortunate enough to be with them from the beginning, and followed these 2 women. Now, these 2 women were the epitome of feminine energy and sexuality and self-care and self-love, and they were beautiful. Their skin was amazing. They were into health and fitness. So from my perspective, I just wanted to be them when I grew up. And I guess following them to every event, I ended up being interviewed and trialed, and then they selected me and another woman out of about 50 or 60 women to be their international presenters. I'd never spoken in public before in my life, and I'd never been on stage in front of hundreds and hundreds of people, and it really was baptism of fire. And I had to walk my talk. So I was selling essential oils, talking about essential oils, talking about daily rituals, talking about how to take care of yourself from teenagers through to the elderly, and it was all these things. And so I think from my perspective, it was being thrown onto the stage, that realizing the only way to be authentic and to be true was to actually, walk my talk. So I'm really grateful at 19 and 20, I got to learn the power of self-care in a professional sense. But of course, it just spoke to my soul, even though, speaking was my greatest fear. The act and the actual message was way beyond what my ego was telling me that I couldn't do it.
Wow. So it's just like you've just tapped into that whole feminine energy, your whole self, and that's just led you to everything.
Absolutely. And
That's
then
amazing.
I know, and then when I was studying perimenopause, just fast tracking number of years, I remember my mum had a real problem with her menopause and really bad hot flushes and just really emotional and so many things that pushed for her. And I said to her, oh my gosh, I'm just, I'm dreading this. And she said, oh no, I'll never forget it. No, you'll be fine, sweetheart. You're so in touch with your feminine energy. People she believes that are in touch with their feminine energy will embrace the transitional hormonal and emotional changes that we women go through. And I've never forgotten that. And I think that's a really poignant message for anybody to tap into. That sexual feminine energy is actually a way to truly embrace and go with the flow of our emotional and hormonal changes throughout our life. I mean, let's face it, women, they get it all. It sucks. We have to go through all the puberty side of things and development of breasts and periods and all of those sorts of things, as well as emotionally honouring ourselves. And then, of course, when we decide to have babies, there's all, if people are aware, they'll go into pre-pregnancy care. Then there's the pregnancy. Then there's the post-baby. And the minute you're pregnant, for women listening, your life's never the same. You are now totally, as I said to my husband, my body feels like it belongs to this entity that I created. And, and then you do eventually find yourself your way back. And I've listened to many beautiful teachers, and I read a lot. And, people like Dr. Christiane Northrup, people like Dr. Libby Weaver. I love following the embracing of what it means to be a female. And I think my journey, my lesson has really taught me that it's more than just being a female. There's the masculine and feminine energy that we can all tap into, whether we're male or female. And going through all the things that I've been through in my life, the highs and the lows, I believe that it's really important that we honor both the masculine and feminine energies within us. So in my belief, and this is just my thoughts, there's no science or research behind this, but in my experiences, I believe the feminine energy, if we're at our true quintessential core self of being in our absolute feminine energy, it's when we love to nourish and nurture. We do it very effortlessly. It's normal for us to nourish and nurture. And I mean that emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And to tap into the masculine energy is to provide and protect. And if you really think about that as a man, if they're really embracing their masculine energy, part of that drive is to provide for their family and to protect their family. It is an intrinsic core value and belief of, generally speaking, most men and their masculine energy. But I could also provide and protect, just like a man can nourish and nurture. So I think it really does pay homage to the fact that there is a real embracing of both the masculine and feminine energies.
Wow, I am so speechless. That was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard.
Oh, really?
That's
so beautiful.
So beautiful, especially what your mum had told you. And for me, that really resonates, because when I started on this journey, I feel like it only started for me a few years ago when my third child was born. She was about 1, and I kind of hit rock bottom a bit, like quite emotional. Just everything was quite full on with 3 young kids. But once I started to look at my own, like started tapping into that sexual energy, that feminine energy, and I went on this whole journey, but it was tracking my cycle that allowed me to I don't know, everything shifted from there. And it was because I'd taken the pill when I was younger, and it was just like this nuisance thing that was just in the way of life. And then I embraced it, and it's true. It has become effortless now. My body is just in sync and in cycle for the last few years, and it never had been before until I started focusing on this. And I too had been concerned about, hitting menopause and stuff, and hearing that message is beautiful. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really profound when you think about it.
Yeah.
And I think what's so pertinent and poignant in this day and age with things like the pill and different contraceptives, which, every person has a choice on how they do this, and it's a challenge. I understand that. I too was on the pill for many years and used the Mirena and different things. And I think the work that I was in and using oils and plants and herbal essences, and the way I really nourished my body with beautiful food, and I've always taken care of my health and my body and the movement, I think that helped to counteract it. So if you are going to choose a medication for contraception, then be mindful. Whilst it can work for many people, it can also rob you of many things as well. So if you're aware of that, I think your intent then changes, and your embracing of the feminine energy becomes even more profound, more important. So I think I'm not sitting here to say you should or you shouldn't, because we all make choices and we all do what's right for us in the moment, don't we?
Yeah. I definitely, I totally agree with that. And I think for me, I felt like I didn't have a choice. I wasn't aware of all of the options back then. And now it's kind of, embracing this. And the reason why I share my message about embracing our sexual side is because I feel like, what you were talking about before, balancing the masculine and feminine, it's like we need a reminder of the feminine, because the masculine is out there all the time in all of social media and everything. It's like, do this, you've got to be, hustle and all of this kind of thing and everything that we're doing. But the feminine is not always promoted. It's not always highlighted. And I think that until we have that kind of balance between the doing as well as the flow, like the feminine side, things can be out of whack and can lead to a lot of exhaustion, depression, and disconnection from ourselves. So I just love how your whole life has kind of been that foundation, and you've just grown with that, and with your business. Like, I actually found you through 28, your essential oils, and have been using your skincare range for probably 4 years now. And it's just beautiful. And I feel like I'm giving myself a treat, like when I'm using those things. And that's what, and just speaking to you today, I can really feel your energy of how you've created that, and why you share this message. It's just beautiful. So I also know that you have a daughter, and I also have a daughter. She's only 4, but I would love to know, what is it that you've done to kind of share this message with her? Because as a mother with a daughter, my belief or my passion for her is to be able to also be embracing this side of herself. And so I would love to know how you've done that.
I think role modeling is one of the most important things that we could ever gift to our children, boys and girls. And I remember standing in front of the mirror, and, there's times where I've looked in the mirror and it doesn't feel as attractive as it could, or, my body shape's changed, or it's not as lithe and lean as it used to be, or there's stretch marks, or there's scars, and all of these things. And I remember thinking, even if I'm thinking this, that I'm a fat fart, or I'm useless, or I'm ugly, or any of those thoughts, which I know crosses every single woman's mind when she looks in the mirror at some point in her life, I just remember thinking, even if I'm thinking that, I know I'm creating an energy around that. So for me to sit there or stand there and say I'm fat, or I'm ugly, or I'm not good enough, is showing my daughter that that's okay to think like that. Or it's showing my son that it's okay to treat a woman and talk like that. If his greatest role model says it, then why would he not say it to a young woman as he's growing through those years? And it really hit me, the responsibility of self-love and the importance of balancing both the negative and the positive, the high and the low, the shadow, the light, all of those things, the masculine, feminine. And the same thing with my business. So Taylor has seen me create my business. So she knows that the essential oils come in a very masculine way. They're harvested with tractors. They're put into a big, massive stainless steel vat. Then steam is pumped into it. And then there's this beautiful distillation process. And then it eventually ends up in this big tub. And then it's bottled. So that to me is a very masculine energy, the way we harvest. Even though they grow with a beautiful feminine energy, they're harvested with a very masculine energy. So then they're put into the laboratory, or if they're made into used in skincare, again, that's in a laboratory, quite a harsh environment. But when it gets to my distribution, in fact, the place that manufactures my skincare and where it comes to me here on the Sunshine Coast or over to Auckland, my other office, we all play this same vibrational frequency music to all our products.
Wow.
So this music sits in the background. It's come out of India. It's called Rain Melody. And we play this music 24/7 to our products while they sit there. And whilst they go into the stability part after the laboratory, they sit there with this music played to them. When they're transported to us, again, more masculine energy, the doing, the get out there, let's get the products to you. So that's why we ourselves play it. So my kids have grown up with this music constantly played in the background at a very low sound. But when people come and stay there, they say, what's that noise? And you can hear this music. So I've embraced that with my daughter, that there is times when we need the very yang energy to get out there and do something and accomplish, and maybe be more in our ego and allow that drive to really push us. So long as we balance it with that feminine side, and often for most of us to understand that, the best way to do it is around self-care or rituals around self-care, which is why I love putting the oils into a diffuser, or I'll use a spritzer beside my kid's bed, or a drop of lavender on their pillow before they go to sleep. Or when they were little, they would choose an oil each to put into the bath. I got them involved in rituals around self-care from a very young age. They've had face masks and massages, and they've done things like grounding and walking outside in bare feet, and then they'll hug a tree, or they know to give thanks to the universe by looking up at the sky and thinking maybe of their auntie who passed away sadly many years ago through suicide, but we talk about her energy up there as now very feminine and soft. Or we'll talk to grandma up there, or we'll just give thanks when we're walking on the beach. Now, it's not to say every day we're this perfect, harmonious, beautiful, in-love family. Then the real aggression can come in at times when someone's angry or tired or frustrated. And I really want to embrace that too, because how do we ever possibly understand the light, the love, and the beauty when we don't understand the heaviness, the shadow, the dark, and the fear of life? That life is a dichotomy. It is full of highs and lows. We have to embrace one to embrace the other. Otherwise, life would be very monotone. So with Taylor, I can be very staunch with her around things, but I can also be incredibly soft and vulnerable with her. And one of our favorite ways of communicating now that she's 22 is we will always, if we see a quote or we see something that's written or a picture of something, every day we tend to send each other a message that's based on a quote or something visual that we're seeing. And I think that's embracing that feminine energy. And then she'll tell me what she's accomplished in that day or how she's done it. And I think it's a really powerful thing. I remember speaking to a beautiful woman, a neuro physicist lady who's also big about communication, Erin Barnes, and she talks about the fact that we have resume goals. We have the societal goals of what is success. And that's our everyday drive. You've got to get the house, the car, the business or the job or whatever it is. But what most people say on their deathbed, and the biggest regrets they have, is what she calls the eulogy virtues. So the things that actually matter deeply, like a stronger connection with my daughter, or I wish I'd taken more time to hug trees, or I wish I'd told my husband how much I loved him, or I wish I'd told my son what a great soul he is. And if you look at, or if you read the book Five Regrets of the Death and Dying by Bronnie Ware, you'll know that that stuff really matters, which is the feminine energy. So I really believe in the resume goals and the accomplishment. There's no way I would have run and set a world record without that drive, and there's no way I would have achieved and got my diplomas and my certificates and all the things that I've done. There's no way I would have started a business without that masculine energy. But what's kept it balanced and what brings me back to the core reason and values as to why I do what I do is truly embracing that feminine energy and doing things with gentle reverence and respect and care. And so my meditation, my deep breaths, my going for a light jog or a walk is all ways that I tap into the gentle side or the feminine side of myself to balance out all the drive and all the other things that I do on a daily basis.
That is beautiful. I love, we are a role model. Like, kids always do what we do, not what we say necessarily. And so it's beautiful to be including them in those rituals. I've been doing the process of, I have rollerballs with the oils in, and my kids get to choose, if they've got a sore tummy, they'll go and pick out one for their sore tummy. Or, and it's about getting them to think about their body. And the message I always share with them about their bodies is that your body's so smart. It's so clever. It can heal itself. And they heal so quickly, these kids, and I think I love the message that you're sharing about them, being in touch with that side of them. And even with your son, getting massages and things like that.
He's such a lush. It's not funny. He's probably the biggest lush out of all of us. And the way in which I've embraced them to do it, and it's great for me because I've got a skincare company, but I would say, hey guys, I've got this new product. I just need everyone. They'd be like, oh, what do we have to do? And I go, oh, you all have to lie down. I'd get Danny, my husband, Taylor and Jacob lying down on the floor, and I'd say something like, shall we watch something like Modern Family, just something to have a laugh with. So I'd lie them down and then I'd wash their faces one at a time. They'd be giggling and laughing, and then I'd paint on the mask. And it's at the mask point that people start to surrender and just relax. And then we're watching the show and then I go, oh, no, you can't move. I need the mask to set. So even if you don't have a skincare company, you might say, look, I've been asked to trial this product and it needs all different ages and sexes. And that's how I taught my kids how to create rituals, even without them wanting to or knowing about it, is I kind of, some would say it was manipulation, but I would say it's gentle persuasion. And they got to benefit it. And then Jacob kept going, I don't need this, I don't need this. And I could see his skin was changing as a teenager. And I said, look, I just need to test if this is okay for teenage boys. So, it's a trial that we're running through the lab. So I just need to check. Anyway, he put it on. We did the massaging of it into the skin because it's got all these beautiful crushed herbs and clays. And then I said, no, you just got to lie there for 10 minutes while it dries. Anyway, it dried. And then I used a warm flannel to remove it. And as it removed, and his skin just looked so flushed and beautiful. And we all went, wow. And he just went, I just never forget him. He goes, yummy. And I think it's so cool to turn, you got to get creative as a mum. You got to get creative as a woman to get our men to do things and for them to tap into that feminine energy. It's really important that you are the example, and you can't force people to do this or embrace it. So show them by being the best version of yourself. And taking care of yourself is one of the greatest acts of self-love you could ever bestow and teach to your family, your friends, your kids, your partners.
And that is beautiful. Now, but before we finish up, I would love to know, for women listening who might not have had this kind of, foundation of self-care and taking care of their bodies, what would be one habit that they could start to do this week? Something simple just to kind of get them started. Because I know when you kind of get started, like getting started is usually the hard part, and then you can kind of get on a bit of a roll. But how could they get started?
Well, there's so many things, but it's got to be a real call to action. And
Mm.
in my book, The Art of Self-Love, I talk about the 6 steps to creating long-term, lifelong abilities to love yourself through the highs and lows of life. And step 1 is self-awareness. Step 2 is self-care. Step 3 is self-discipline. So those 3 steps alone, you have to be aware that you want to do it, that you need it, that it's time. Because without awareness, if I'm just telling you to do it, it's not going to feel authentic or enough of a pull to make you. You've got to have a why. So awareness is to, I've been really tired lately. I've been grumpy. I haven't been very kind. I've been gossiping. I've been putting myself down. I've put on weight. Any of those things, I'm angry, I'm scared, I'm fearful. Any of those feelings is what I call operating out of our fear or self-sabotage. So when you're aware that you're doing that, you're already now doing some self-love because, oh my gosh, I am feeling this way because I haven't slept very well. But then you got to take some self-care steps. You can't just be aware of it. Otherwise, keep doing the same thing. You'll keep getting the same result. And I also know how we do one thing, we do all things.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get dramatic about that and you get into story or you're a martyr or I can't or nobody cares, I'm going to tell you this here and now, nobody actually does care. What they care about, particularly if you're a woman, is that you're happy and healthy. That's what people care about. Your closest friends or your therapist may care about your downs, but most of the time, people just want you to be happy and healthy. So the awareness when you're not is one of the most powerful ahas and affirmations you can give to yourself. But the next step is crucial, and that's self-care. So any of the rituals that I talk about, and essential oils to me are the easiest, most simple way to embrace self-care and to do it, because just lighting a diffuser or vaporizer, doing a spritzer, an aroma mist where you fill up a 50 ml bottle and add 6 drops of your favorite blend or essential oils and shake the bottle, fill it with water, but you shake and spritz. That is the best way to create a hardwired track into the amygdala, the part of the brain that changes the way we think and feel within 3 to 4 seconds. So when you understand that by inhaling an oil can change the way you think and feel in a matter of seconds, you start to understand why I get so passionate about it. Or it might be running yourself a bath. And most people say, oh, I'd love a bath, but I don't have time. Well, it's never to me about time and money. They're the 2 biggest reasons why people don't take care of themselves is time and money. But I say that's BS. It's actually more about whether or not it's a priority. So if I said to everybody listening, you have to light your diffuser and do a daily body boost treatment, massaging yourself every day till the end of this year, or else someone you love really, really a lot will no longer be on this planet, I guarantee you will find the time and money to do it. So it comes back to, again, your why. And if I can keep saying to everybody, when you tap into that feminine energy of loving, nurturing, and nourishing your mind, body, and soul, you become the greatest example on humanity as to how we can get through tough times, how we can really celebrate the good times, and how we can be the example. We're a role model, not a supermodel. But here's why the 3rd step is so important of self-discipline. If you do not do this on a daily basis, if you do not do this and make this a part of your world, then without discipline, it's just words, or it's just a one-day wonder or a one-week wonder. We have to have discipline. Without discipline, I would never have run 104 miles. Without discipline, I would never have been a healthy pregnant woman. Without discipline, I'd never have got my diplomas, as I've mentioned. And without discipline, I wouldn't be mindful of the way that I speak. Or without discipline, I wouldn't do my meditation. It takes discipline to be a great human. So those 3 steps are what I call the doing. You have to do something in order to be something. And once we have discipline and we've done like a body boost ritual, which is something that I think would be a really simple thing for your listeners to take on, which is simply a bowl, taking a little ceramic or glass bowl, putting a teaspoon of carrier oil, it could be macadamia, jojoba, sweet almond, coconut, teaspoon of oil, then add 3 drops of your favorite chosen oils or blend, 1 of each oil or 3 drops of a chosen blend. I like to add 5 sprays of magnesium health spray to help with cell communication, restorativeness of my cells, and also making sure that I stay calm and centered. Magnesium is something that most of us are lacking. And then I stand naked after I've body brushed or washed myself down with a face cloth in the shower, hop out, pat myself dry, and then with that blend, which only takes a matter of seconds to make, or you can buy a pre-blended one. I've now got Body Boost oils already made so that excuse goes. So what you can do is you dip and you rub and you start from toes and you work up each leg saying, I really love you legs for getting me out on that walk this morning. And oh, you knees, you're looking a little bit chubby right now. That's because mummy's been eating way too much. So I promise you I'm going to look after you today. So it's not about lying to yourself if you're not happy with who you are, but also promising yourself what you're going to do about it rather than bleating and complaining more. Moving up into the tummy, and I see my stretch marks, and I used to see, ugly stretch marks. Now with the amount of women out there that can't or will never have babies, I see them as stripes of honor. There are women out there that would give anything to be smothered in stretch marks. So my stripes of honor now get nourished and nurtured. Then up over my breasts, which are no longer up and pert the way they were when I was in my 20s, I now nourish them because I know there's women out there that have lost their breasts or one of them, and they'd give anything to have their floppy, saggy, stretch marks boobs back again. So I'm really mindful of taking care of myself. And then up onto my arms that I know hug people and make beautiful meals for people and make beautiful products. And then through my mentorship program, how I can virtually through Zoom, and the whole COVID thing has taught us how to connect through podcasts and Zooms. So my arms hug the universe with a virtual hug. And then up onto my face, so I scrape the bowl by now. I don't put the oils all over my face because I have my beautiful skincare for that, but I place my hands over my face and I take 3 deep breaths. And the honoring of 3 deep breaths and saying something you're grateful for is the best, fastest way to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our calming agent. And that is way better than stressing ourselves into what we call the red zone, the sympathetic nervous system, where everything's in flight or fright. So 3 deep breaths, gratitude, smelling the oils, taking those deep breaths and being grateful. Now, on the days that life sucks, because I get it, this sounds beautiful and romantic and loving and all of those things. And I've got some of you sitting there going, oh, chance would be a fine thing. I've got 3 kids, I've got 5 kids, whatever. I can promise you, hand on heart, there has not been a day that I've missed this ritual since I was 19 and I'm now 52. I have never missed this ritual. So again, it's about prioritizing. My kids will be standing there screaming sometimes watching me do this, but it calms them in the process and shows them that mummy has to make her health a priority. And this ritual, on the days that life sucks, I might be real. I'm not going to lie and say, oh, life's great and say it facetiously. I will say, God, give me the courage, grace, strength, and dignity to get through this day. Or it might be, thank you for the sun shining today. Or I'm grateful it's raining. Or I'm just bloody grateful I'm breathing and I'm upright. So it's about being authentic and real, but it's taking action on the days that life sucks and also embracing and celebrating the days that are great. And that ritual alone has changed lives around the world. And people say, oh, it sounds like it takes forever. I'm saying it can take between 30 seconds and 2 minutes for most of us. Now, if you don't believe you're worth 30 seconds or 2 minutes every morning, then I'm going to say you're going to have to invest into therapy at some point in your life, or you will be looking for ways to become a better version of yourself that's going to cost a lot more. So I just want to say that ritual that I have been teaching and embracing for many years is a game changer. And then when we do these things with discipline, then the other side of the circle is we have much more self-control over the way we speak, the way we eat, the way we meditate, the way we are in the world. And with more self-control, we have way more self-respect. And I can tell you this now, Nikki, when we have truckloads of self-respect, there's no way we will put up with other people's crap. There's no way we would put something awful into a body that we love. There's no way that we would say those awful things that goes on between our ears often, or if we do, we pick up on ourselves. When we have self-respect, or mana, as they call it in New Zealand, it is one of the most, what I'd call, best superpowers you could ever own. And then with self-respect, we have self-acceptance. And self-acceptance is when we love ourselves, warts and all, good and all, shadow side, dark side, all the things that we don't do well, the mummy guilt, the shame, all of the things that we do embrace. And we know as a part of us, we can accept it with love and reverence rather than disdain and shame. And I think that is one of the most powerful gifts of self-love we could ever give ourselves. And one of the best ways to tap into that amazing feminine energy is taking the time and making it a priority.
Yes. Wow. That is incredible. And I have read your book. I've got it sitting right here on my shelf. And I think the self-discipline side of it was so true, because, you know, it's like, oh, you know, all the feminine energy, it's like discipline seems very restrictive. It's like, oh my God, you know. And so I always had this like triggering thing about, you know, self-discipline, and that the way you've just said that is amazing. So for everyone listening, where can they find out more? How can they get their hands on the oils, your book, and things like that?
Well, if you would love to follow me, I'm on Instagram under Kim Morrison and then the number 28. My business is 28 Essentials, and that's on Instagram as well. And then I have, if you want to get more involved on a daily basis, then kimmorrisontraining.com is where I have my mentorship programs and things like that. So it's a beautiful space and a beautiful place. I have a courier man yelling at me in the background, sorry. So yes, it's all... it's there. And also 28.com is my website. So awesome. Yeah, it's a really beautiful place. If you want to hang out with me and share some of your feelings and thoughts and feedback, I would love that.
Excellent. Well, I will put the links on there. And just before we finish, I just want to acknowledge you for the work you've done in supporting women. You know, to be able to embrace and celebrate their bodies, it's just amazing, and you're such a beautiful role model for all of us. So thank you so much, and thank you for your time this morning as well. It's been amazing.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. And, you know, there's no accidents that these beautiful souls are listening to you and the work that you're doing. I just want to say, you know, I'll never forget being invited onto stage to speak with Pete Evans a number of years ago, and, you know, Libby Weaver and the Food Matters team and all these different people.
Yeah.
And I stepped on stage and I don't know why, but I get really cheeky and naughty as well. And I said, you know what, it's not rocket science, you know, girls, if you want a great life, you just got to give your partner a little bit of a tickle up, a quickie, a BJ, whatever it is, because we know the release of oxytocin and nitric oxide, having an orgasm, you can get whatever you want. It's not rocket science. And I'll never forget thinking, oh my God, is that crossing the line? But what I love what you're doing, Nikki, is making the subject of sex and intimacy and feminine energy so real and so beautiful to honor and celebrate rather than hide it. And I think the more we can step into the grace of that, the better off this planet. I can't begin to tell you, through everything we've gone through and all the fear and all the stuff happening around the world right now, I do believe Mother Nature has put us into time out. And this is the perfect time for us to be rebirthing ourselves and re-honoring what it means to be a woman, if you're listening. And if there's a man listening, then to honor yourself for the great man that you are and the role that we play in both our masculine and feminine energies. And so I want to thank you in return, beautiful Nikki.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much for today. It's just been amazing. I couldn't have imagined a better interview. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Awesome.